good evening. And let us make that more than a social pleasantry. Let us make it an evening of communing with good. And by good, I do not mean the kind that jingles in a pocket or is tallied in a ledger, but good in its spiritual sense, the quiet awareness of presence felt within. Let us sit together, not to add more words to weary minds, but to turn a familiar word like need from its paycheck meaning to its prayer meaning, and to let a word like supply move out of arithmetic into the realm of spirit. Now I know the verse that has comforted so many of us, and I am going to speak it as it has been spoken to me, from the old text that has carried countless hearts through night seasons. But my God shall supply all your need according to his riches in glory by Christ Jesus. And I am going to interrupt myself right here to say I once used that as a money verse. I did. I pinned it over bills, and I whispered it at bank counters, and I waited. And I'm letting you in on the secret. I was never given in those days what it was actually pointing to in consciousness. We have been taught to hear it as an external delivery system, a cosmic payroll department, a divine check in the mail. And the strange thing is that reading it that way seems to soothe for a moment, and then sends us right back into the very anxiety from which we sought escape. Because waiting is a form of fear when the basis is outside of us. What if this verse is not a promissory note from a distant benefactor, but a revelation of a law of inner life? What if its power is not in a promise of incoming money, but in unveiling a presence that, when realized, becomes the outflow that appears as whatever form truly meets the need? Now remember this, because it will guide our whole evening. Supply is not what comes to you. Supply is what flows through you from within. My God, do you hear it? Not a far-off deity, not the God of the next-door neighbor whose business is blessed while yours is bare, but the God realized as indwelling presence, closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet, quietly alive at the center of your own being. When that presence is contacted in the secret place, it does something. It moves as peace first, and then that peace, without noise, translates itself into visible forms, ideas, right relationships, opportunities, even currency. Whatever shape love must take to be recognized as supply. I do not mean that this leads to a life of sitting up on cloud nine while forgetting the rent or the payroll. No, we are not denying human obligations. We are changing the basis from which we meet them. Instead of leaning our weight on outer chances and frantic calculation, we learn to rest it upon inner contact, and then we watch how the outer falls into accord. This is our invitation tonight, to take a verse we thought we knew, and to let it become not a wait for income, but a way of life in which outgo, circulation, reveals the ever-present source that never empties. When we read, God shall supply, the natural mind at once hears, something will arrive, and prayer becomes a kind of suspense, a waiting for a delivery truck to turn the corner, a letter to slip through the slot, a notification to light up a screen. We begin to count days. We begin to circle dates. We whisper the verse over figures and due dates, and we call that our faith. But the feeling in the stomach is not faith. It is waiting. And waiting is a timid form of fear, when the basis of our hope is outside of us. Watch how this unfolds in us, and be gentle, because I am describing myself as much as anyone. We watch income like a weatherman watches clouds. We fear bills the way a child fears thunder. We compare. This one prospered. Why not me? We bargain. If this check comes, I will be generous. If that client pays, I will be peaceful. Temporarily renting serenity with contingencies. And then we attach God's name to the bargain and call it piety, while all the while the mind is camped in lack, measuring, counting, promising, postponing peace until the event arrives. Do you see how that keeps the heart on a leash? Now I must interrupt to say this is not a scolding. No, how could it be? I once sat at the same desk, with the same verse, pinning it over the same stack of envelopes, and I did not know how to pray. I had been trained, as many of us were, to think of God as an outer dispenser. If I rang the bell correctly, the window would slide open and a needed form would be passed through. But the strange thing is that even when a form did come through, the bell remained my master, and so did the fear of it not ringing next time. External supply binds us to external dread. Here is the reversal. And I say it with love and with the authority of many years watching it prove itself. If your supply is outside, you are always vulnerable. If your supply is the realized presence within, you are never without access. Where I am, God is. Where God is, I am. I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. And when the Father is recognized within, supply ceases to be a shipment and is seen as a flow. The channel may be a job today and a kindness tomorrow, an idea at noon and a letter at dusk. But the source is unaltered, because the source is not the channel. Do you doubt it? Then notice this. Whenever peace comes first, forms rearrange without terror. Whenever forms are chased first, peace runs farther down the road. I don't mean that we grow careless about our affairs. I mean that we change the basis from suspense to presence, from counting to contacting, so that responsibility is met from a quieted center instead of from a clenched fist. And before we can speak of the beautiful fruits that this inward turn produces in business and bills and relationships, we must clear one more misunderstanding. What we have been calling need is not a number at all. And where it is truly met is not out there at the mailbox, but in here, in the secret place where the Father that seeth in secret rewardeth openly. Let us go there next. Now let us take hold of the phrase that has been hiding in plain sight. My God. Not the tribal God, not the God of a far-off throne to be persuaded by eloquence or by volume, but my God, the immediacy of presence at the core of one's own being. The kingdom of God is within you. He is closer to you than breathing, and nearer than hands and feet. If I ascend to the peak of exhilaration, there. If I sink into worry and can hardly lift my head, there. I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee. In him we live and move and have our being. Do you hear how this refuses distance? Do you see how it denies delay? We are not being sent to a heavenly post office. We are being turned within, into the secret place that is not a room at all, but a dawning recognition. Where I am, God is. Where God is, I am. Now, I must interrupt myself, because here is where many of us, myself included in earlier years, took a long detour. We thought about God. We believed in God. We used God words. And yet the heart remained tight and the breath shallow, because thinking about God is not the same as contacting God. Thinking is a mental assent. Contacting is a shift of awareness. Thinking tries to add something to us from the outside. Contact unveils what already is within, and at once the inner weather changes. The mind may still flutter, but underneath you will know it. There is a settling, a soft arrival of peace that is not of our own manufacture. it is given. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. Not on notions about thee, but on thee. And I am going to say this plainly, because by now I am in a position to speak with authority born of watching it prove itself in healings and in supply, in relationships and in business. I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. If you make this sentence the foundation under your feet, you will feel the relief travel up your spine. Do you see the agency reversal? The old way made me an anxious engineer of outcomes. The illumined way makes me a transparency. My function is to consent to presence, to yield the stage, to let the inner life be the actor. And then, without strain, what must be done is done. What must be known is known. What must appear, appears. When my God is realized as indwelling presence, supply cannot remain defined as something coming to us from outside. Supply must be recognized as the life of God expressing as us, and then as the forms that meet the hour. I am the vine, ye are the branches. The sap does not run in from the street, it flows from within the vine into the branch, and fruit appears where there is connection, not where there is clutching. So it is that ideas arise, doors open, right people and right places synchronize, and sometimes, yes, currency changes hands, but always as the outer face of an inner flow. The Father that seeth in secret rewardeth openly. First the secret, the felt presence. Then the open, the forms of the moment. From this point forward, we will not ask a distant benefactor to ship us prosperity. We will rest, quietly and consistently, in the recognition of an ever-present God, and we will let supply show itself as the natural outworking of that realized presence. Let us take the next honest step and ask, what is need? Not as the adding machine asks it, not as the column of figures dictates it, but as the heart knows it. Need, in its spiritual sense, is not a number. It is the felt absence of harmony. It is the ache for safety when the world seems sharp and shifting. It is the yearning for guidance when crossroads multiply and all of them look alike. It is the hunger for strength when the body or the nerves seem thin. It is the desire for order when time scatters and tasks clang. It is the call for right activity when we are busy but barren, for right companionship when we are surrounded and yet alone. Do you see? These are not ledger entries. These are conditions of consciousness, and therefore their answer cannot be found by arithmetic, but by awareness of presence. Now I am going to interrupt myself to confess what you already suspect. I used to treat money as the universal solvent. Whatever the inner ache, I put a dollar sign over it and set about chasing the sign. If I had more, I told myself, I would be peaceful. If I had more, I would be confident. If I had more, I would be loving and generous and unafraid. But the strange thing is, on the days when the check did arrive, the hour after the deposit, the old tremor returned. The mind immediately measured the next due date, the next risk, the next what if. Now remember this, and take it gently to heart. When money arrives and fear remains, the need was never money. When peace arrives, even before a plan has congealed, outer arrangements begin to shuffle themselves into order. The Father that seeth in secret rewardeth openly. First the secret, inner rest. Then the open, forms aligning with that rest. When Paul wrote, "all your need," he was not carving humanity into categories with separate gods for each department. All is completeness. The entire range of human requirement is met by one source when consciousness yields to it. One light illumines the room, and every object takes its proper place and contour. One realized presence, and health takes on its rightness. Activity takes on its fruitfulness. Relationships take on their tone. And yes, the purse finds its sufficiency. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Not earned by anxiety, not purchased by barter, but added as effects to a cause, as branches to a vine. Here is a gentle test to carry with you tonight and tomorrow and the week after. If your prayer is finished and you still feel the clutch, you have not yet prayed in the spiritual sense. You have only calculated. Return then, not to your figures, but to your Father. If, on the other hand, your prayer closes on a whisper of peace, even a small whisper, even 5 seconds of it, watch quietly. You have touched the root, and leaves will show it soon enough. For need is a state of consciousness, and its meeting is also a state of consciousness. The outward is the echo. The inward is the voice. And so, before we hurry to invent methods for obtaining things, let us retire again to that interior chamber which is not a room at all, but a recognition. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. There, in the secret place, the hunger for harmony is satisfied as harmony itself. The sense of exposure is answered by felt safety. The confusion is resolved as guidance known within. Then, without strain and without bargaining, life begins to bear witness. Appointments fit, tasks sort themselves, the right companionship appears. Provision comes through channels we could not have diagrammed. The need was never a number. The need was God realized, and in that realization, all your need is already accounted for. Now, if the need was never a number, then what is supply in its spiritual sense? Let us say it carefully, so that we can carry it with us into the week. Supply is the activity of spirit expressing itself as intelligence, as order, as life, as love. It is not a pile of things. It is the living substance behind all right things, the invisible essence that takes whatever outward shape the moment requires. Today it may be a check. Tomorrow it may be a client. At dawn, it may be an idea that cancels an expense at noon. In the evening, it may be a healing that renders the feared procedure unnecessary. It may be a timely contact, a door opening in a corridor you had not noticed, a quiet instruction within that keeps your hand from signing the wrong paper. Forms differ. Substance is one. And I am going to interrupt myself to remind you of what we have seen in the old stories. Not as museum pieces, but as studies in the law of here and now presence. Manna in the wilderness was not an investment windfall. It was daily bread for a people who could not plant fields. He that gathered much had nothing over, and he that gathered little had no lack. Do you feel the lesson? Supply is sufficiency, not surplus for hoarding. It is the answering form of love in the day called today. Elijah and the ravens, not a payroll, but nourishment carried by unlikely wings. And when the brook dried, the same supply appeared as a widow's unfailing meal barrel. The channel changed, the source remained. And our Master with the loaves and fishes, no bakery in sight, only a blessing, a breaking, and a giving. And they did all eat and were filled, and there were baskets over. Flow revealed supply, not storage. Beautiful. Now remember this: thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. This is not poetry, it is a law. First, the invisible, the realized presence within, felt as peace, as a still rightness that needs no argument. Then the open reward, the rearrangement of conditions, the sudden rightness of events. Do you doubt it? Watch how often the order is this and not the other way around. Seek a form and peace flees, rest in presence and forms fall into place. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. The works appear where the Father is realized. So let us grow simple and very practical. If the bill is due and the heart is racing, go within. Do not ask for a number. Ask for God. Wait until even a breath of quiet comes. That quiet is substance already at work. It may move as an idea that trims a cost. It may move as a call from a client long silent. It may move as courage to correct a mistaken order. It may move as health in a body that sets you back. One substance, many forms. The Father that seeth in secret rewardeth openly. And now, because I know you will replay this part in your thought, let me start to turn the page to the paradox that frightens the calculating mind and liberates the illumined heart. This substance does not expand by clutching. It multiplies by circulating. The vine does not hoard sap in the branch. It pours, and fruit appears. We will let that have our full attention next, because in understanding outgo, we discover, often to our astonishment, the true nature of income. Now we come to the turn that the human mind resists, and the heart, once it has tasted it, will never surrender. We have been trained to watch income and to fear outgo. But in spiritual living, it is precisely outgo that proves supply as flow. Do you hear it? Not reckless spilling, not the gambler's throw, but the holy circulation of what the Father is forever pouring through His vine into His branches. When the branch clutches, sap stagnates. When the branch consents, fruit appears. Freely ye have received, freely give. And I am going to interrupt myself to say, I did not know this at first. I pinched, I postponed. I tried to save peace by saving pennies, and discovered that pinching tightens the soul while never quite satisfying the purse. Outgo, when it is inspired by inner peace, reveals that the source is not in the coin at all, but in the presence. Now remember this. I am not counseling recklessness. No, I do not mean shopping against wisdom or spending to drown fear. Spiritual outgo is circulation, and circulation is intelligence in motion. It takes form as honest payment, paying what is yours to pay, on time, or, if that is not possible, with honest communication and a token that carries integrity. It takes form as generosity, the quiet envelope, the lifted tip, the kindness that does not calculate publicity. It takes form as the tithe of gratitude, not a toll paid to appease a deity, but a portion consciously set aside to keep the channel open in your own heart, to say within yourself, Thou, not I, art the source. It takes form as sharing, time, skill, attention, releasing the fear-based clutching that says, if I give, I will have less. In spirit, giving is not subtraction. It is participation in a law. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Why? Because consciousness is the arena. Hoarding is a confession of lack. It silently declares, there is not enough, I am on my own. And what you inwardly recognize, you outwardly experience. Circulation is the opposite recognition. It says without trumpet, the Father within is my sufficiency. And what you recognize, you experience. The river lives by moving. The pool that is cut off goes green. So with us. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. Outgo undertaken in that humility is not self-spending. It is self-yielding. It is the branch letting the vine's life run. But what if I don't have enough? I hear you, because I have heard my own heart ask it. We do not ignore arithmetic. We refuse to make it our master. Meet your obligations with wisdom and with love. If you cannot pay in full, pay something true and bless it. Write the small check without shame and with a quiet inward acknowledgement of source. Take the phone in peace, not panic, and speak the truth kindly. Let a coin go where conscience directs. Keep a bit ready for the unplanned mercy at the corner. In these acts, fear loosens its fingers from your throat, and you will notice that ideas begin to come, doors begin to open, timing begins to favor you. The Father that seeth in secret rewardeth openly. The open reward is not caused by the coin. It is the echo of the inner recognition that the coin symbolized. Begin then with the first outgo, which is not money at all. Let there be an outgo of consciousness. Release resentment, the old grudge that knots your chest. Release shame, the self-accusation that says you are a poor steward and must be punished. Release the belief that you are separate from your source. These are the real hordes that block the channel. Forgive, and you will feel the river move. Give thanks before figures change, and you will feel the inner weight shift. Bless those to whom you owe, and those who owe you, and watch the atmosphere clear. Out of that clearing, outer giving finds its right measure and its right timing, and often its unexpected means. And now, to make all of this more than words, we must learn to contact the source directly and not in theory. This circulation is not a technique. It is the natural action of realized presence. So we will go, very simply, into the secret place, shutting the door on the world for a few minutes, and we will learn how to touch the inner spring from which all true outgo and all true income alike arise. Now let us do what talk cannot do for us. Let us go within, not to get things, but to touch presence. When you close your eyes, if you will, let that be more than a gesture. Close the door on the world. Let the hands grow soft in your lap. Let the jaw unhook. Let the shoulders drop their argument with gravity. Let one slow breath go out as if you were setting a package down that you have carried too far. We are not bringing the bills and the promises into this room. We are bringing only a willingness to be still. Be still and know that I am God. Not think that I am God. Know. And now, very simply, we turn our attention inward. And we are not asking for a number. We are acknowledging a fact. Thou art here. Say it within yourself, without push. Thou art here. Again, gently. If a thought runs to a plan, let it pass, as if it were a child at play outside the window. We are not stopping the child. We are staying with the center. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Not because a truck is turning the corner, but because shepherding is going on now, within. Where I am, God is. Where God is, I am. Do you notice, even now, a slight settling? It may be 5 seconds. It may be 30. That is not failure. That is training. The sign is peace, And peace is presence, revealing itself as your sufficiency before a single outward thing has shifted. I am going to interrupt my own words to remind you. You are not manufacturing this. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. Your part is consent, not construction. Keep the heart turned. Acknowledge him in all thy ways, and he shall direct thy paths. Use it as a doorway. Before the call, before the email, before the checkbook, acknowledge him, and wait for that small inward nod. He leadeth me beside the still waters. Let the waters be still in you first. If you are given only a breath of quiet, treasure it. It is the seed. Return to it often, many brief times a day. 5 seconds here, 15 there. Meditation is an art that learns its rhythm by doing, and the reward of the secret is not in tomorrow's mail. It is in the felt presence now. Out of this quiet, move to the next right thing without strain. Make the call in peace. Open the ledger in peace. Walk to the meeting in peace. You will find that right timing begins to present itself. Doors that were stuck give way. A word you had not prepared says itself. An obligation finds a path you could not have engineered yesterday. Sometimes the answer comes as you had hoped. Sometimes it comes as a redirection, a canceling of an unnecessary expense, a new idea that renders the old request obsolete. Do you see? Need was met as peace first, and that peace became the power of outward supply. The Father that seeth in secret rewardeth openly. We will speak next of the fruit, of business reordered and relationships sweetened, and bills addressed without panic. But for now, hold fast to this order. Presence, then peace, then form. Now remember this. You will never need to know problems. You will only need to know God. And God known within will make himself known without, as the very shape your hour requires. Now let us look quietly at the open reward. Because if we are to build a life upon this, we must know what fruit to expect. The first evidence is almost always tonal. Relationships take on a softer light. The colleague with whom you braced yourself each morning is suddenly easier to speak with. The client that bristled begins to listen. At the table at home, a different patience shows up, and words that once leapt now pass by. You will notice decisions grow clearer and faster. Not the nervous fast of hurry, but the clean fast of seeing. Costly mistakes decline because the impulse to rush is replaced by a pause that catches the loose thread before it snags. Timely opportunities begin to present themselves as if they had been waiting just around the corner for your inward nod. The introduction you needed. The call returned precisely when it could be acted upon. A cancellation that frees the hour you did not have. And there is unexpected assistance. An extension offered without your pleading. A fee forgiven. A skilled friend appearing with the right tool at the right time. Do you see the drift? The atmosphere of life changes first, and then life itself arranges in that atmosphere. I have watched, and I can say this with authority. Supply can increase without your outer strain increasing. In fact, you may find yourself working fewer hours with better results. Doors that would not open to banging yield to a hand that is no longer pounding. Projects that consumed days of pushing move in hours because you entered them from peace. You stop fishing in empty water. You make the one call that matters. You write the one letter that finds the person who can say yes. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. When the works are His, the burden is not yours, and yet the fruit appears upon your branch. Now remember this, because it governs discernment. Do not outline the form. Do not pray to the mailbox or to a particular signature on a particular line. Let presence choose the avenue. It may be new work that honors you more and pays you better. It may be the same work under a better contract. It may be a conflict resolved so that lost energy returns as effectiveness. It may be a saved expense, a repair instead of a replacement, a refund discovered, an error reversed. It may even be a clear no to a scheme that would have bled you. Your business is the inner consent. The Father that seeth in secret will determine whether the reward is money or mercy, or a door that closes now to save you later. What prompted it? I do not know. What gave the letter its tone? What moved the manager's heart? What turned the thought at just the right second? I do not know. But I know the pattern, and by now I am in a position to say it is repeatable when the inner practice is faithful. Acknowledgement within, peace within, simple obedient action without, and fruit. Sometimes quickly, like a summer shower that changes the air in minutes, sometimes gradually, like seed to blade to ear. Our part is to return again and again to the inner altar, to keep the rhythm. 5 seconds here, 30 there, morning and noon and between errands, until the sense of a living presence becomes the climate of the day. Do not be discouraged by timing. Some rearrangements are invisible while the roots are spreading. Some are public and sudden. Hold to the order. Watch for fewer errors, for right timings, for harmonies where friction lived, for openings where walls had been. These are not accidents. They are the open reward of secret contact. And because I know that for some of you the need is loud and the calendar feels like a fist, we must speak, and we will, of what to do in that very hour. How to refuse panic without refusing responsibility. How to take the next step in peace while the mind demands immediate proof. We will go there now. Now let us face the hour when the need is loud. Past due notices stacked like small threats. A child looking at you for steadiness. A report from the physician that shakes the breath. These are not imaginary. I would be untrue if I minimize them. The notices are ink on paper. The dates are on the calendar. The body speaks its protest. But hear me gently. The panic is the imagination. Panic is the mind's theater, projecting endings it does not have the authority to write. The facts require attention. The fear does not require obedience. So we practice a simple two-step that you can carry into any hour. First, within. Turn from appearances as final and acknowledge presence. Father, Thou knowest the need. I rest in Thy government. Show me right activity. Say it inwardly, without drama. Keep a finger on the lip of the mind. We are not rehearsing the problem to God as if He were uninformed. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. Wait for even a breath of settling. 5 seconds will do. That is step 1. Then, without, do the next human thing calmly. Make the call. Arrange a payment you can honor. Set the appointment. Correct the invoice. Open the spreadsheet and look with clear eyes. Speak the truth to the person who must hear it, and do so without apology and without aggression. Do not worship appearances while you handle them. You are not bargaining with fear. You are carrying out right activity under another government. Acknowledge Him in all thy ways, and he shall direct thy paths. Let the directing begin with the tone of your voice, the timing of your action, the choice of one step, not 10, taken now. And I must interrupt to caution against spiritual theatrics. There is no need to convince God. There is no merit in many words or in telling the story to every ear that will listen. Secrecy is strength. The Father that seeth in secret rewardeth openly. Keep the center quiet. Inwardly repeat your simple acknowledgement. Outwardly, do the clean, honest thing that lies immediately before you. Then pause again. Return to the secret place. Move again. This is how panic is refused without responsibility being refused. Beautiful. Now remember this, when the way seems to narrow. A closed door may be supply. Protection is also provision. A delayed answer may be reordering in your favor. The loan not granted may be the debt not binding you. The job that passes may be the task that would have starved your spirit. Do not call every no a loss. Listen for the inner yes that redirects the feet. Presence governs outcomes by ways the mind cannot diagram. Your task is to keep the atmosphere clear and the steps honest. Take this with you back to Paul's word. My God shall supply all your need according to his riches in glory by Christ Jesus. Not as a slogan on the wall, but as a living order of life. Inner acknowledgement first, outward right activity next, and then leave the result to the Father within, who doeth the works. Meet responsibility with calm action. Meet fear with inner stillness, and you will find that supply, which is the realized presence, shapes itself into the very form your hour requires. The Father that seeth in secret will see to the open reward. So we come at last to take the verse off the wall and let it live as breath within us. My God shall supply all your need according to his riches in glory by Christ Jesus. Do you hear it now? Not as a promise of currency, not as a schedule of deliveries, but as a revelation that God supplies by imparting himself, his peace, his wisdom, his order, his love. And these invisible qualities take shape as the forms that meet the hour. Peace becomes a clear decision and a right contact. Wisdom becomes the one idea that averts loss. Order becomes timing that cannot miss. Love becomes favor where before there was resistance. The Father that seeth in secret rewardeth openly. First the impartation, then the appearance. We have walked this arc together. From a familiar line often hitched to financial hope, through the clearing away of misconception, to the heart of it, God as indwelling presence, and then on into the paradox of circulation, the practice of the secret place, and the proof by fruit in business, bills, and relationships. This is not a theory to discuss over coffee. It is a way of life to be practiced privately and steadily, until the realized presence becomes the climate of the day, and the visible begins to take its cues from that climate. Now I am going to interrupt myself to set a seal upon what must be remembered. Supply is not chiefly what comes to you. Supply is what flows through you from the source within you. The vine does not live by what it collects, it lives by what it circulates. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. Therefore, I live as a branch that consents to peace first, to guidance first, to love first, and then allows that interaction to move as right outgo, right words, right payments, right mercy. And in that very consenting, I discover that all my need is already contained in God realized. How shall you begin? And how shall you continue? Simply, quietly, low pressure. Morning and night, sit for a few minutes and close the door within yourself. No outlining, no pleading. Father, thou art here. Wait for even a breath of stillness. Let that stillness be the sign and the sufficiency of that sitting. During the day, take micro moments. When the phone rings, when the email opens, when the wallet comes out. 5 seconds to acknowledge. Acknowledge him in all thy ways, and he shall direct thy paths. Keep secrecy. Keep gentleness. Let a small, honest generosity circulate. The coin, the courtesy, the forgiveness, to keep the heart unblocked. Return, return, return. It is the returning that builds the rhythm. Now remember this. You will never need to know problems. You will only need to know God. Know Him as peace within before you move. Know Him as wisdom within before you decide. Know Him as love within before you speak. Then watch. Do you hear? Watch. The visible adjust. The appointment alters. The figure revises. The door opens or closes to your good. The Father that seeth in secret will see to the open reward. And we will not end here. We will continue in communion. Tomorrow's morning, the next evening, the next need that speaks up. Each one is not a threat. Each one is an opportunity to prove the presence. To let Philippians 4:19 live as a channel through you. Where you are, God is. Where God is, you are. Beautiful.